I stood there in my graduation gown, smiling for photos, pretending everything was normal. The backyard was full of relatives, neighbors, my professors, even a few local reporters because I had graduated top of my class with a full scholarship. My parents were glowing, but not in the way I expected. It wasn't pride, it was performance. My father tapped his glass with a fork. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The chatter faded. I adjusted my cap, assuming he was about to give a sweet speech. Maybe something about how hard I worked. Maybe something about late nights and sacrifices. Instead, he laughed nervously and said, "Well, since today is all about honesty and celebration, we think it's time everyone knows the truth." I felt something tighten in my stomach. My mother stepped forward and grabbed the microphone from him like she couldn't wait. "She's adopted," she announced brightly. "We took her in when she was 5. The crowd gasped softly. My ears started ringing. Adopted? That wasn't new to me. I had always known. They told me when I was little. It was never a secret. So why announce it now? And honestly," my father added with a chuckle, "we never expected she'd turn out this successful. Guess we made a good investment." Investment. The word landed harder than the adoption reveal. People laughed awkwardly. I didn't. My mother continued. "Was sacrificed so much to raise her. Private tutors, activities, support, and now look at her. All those scholarships and offers! It just proves how much effort we put in." Effort we put in. I felt my cheeks burn, but I kept smiling. Inside, something was cracking. They weren't celebrating me. They were claiming me. As if my achievements were a return on their financial plan. A reporter near the gate leaned closer, scribbling notes. My father added one last line that changed everything. "And now that she's entering such a high-paying career, we're excited to finally relax a little." Relax. The implication was clear. I was the retirement plan. I slowly took the microphone from my mother's hand. They thought they had just controlled the narrative. They had no idea what I was about to reveal. I always knew I was adopted. They told me when I was 5, sitting me down at the kitchen table, like it was a bedtime story. "You're special," my mother said softly. "What chose you?" And for years, I believed that meant love. I remember clinging to that word, chosen. It made me feel lucky, protected, wanted. But as I grew older, I started noticing the fine print. When I got good grades, my father would say, "See, we knew you had potential." When I won competitions, my mother would smile proudly and whisper, "All that training we paid for." Paid for. It was subtle at first, almost invisible. But there was always this quiet undercurrent. Like my success validated them more than it fulfilled me. I worked hard. Not because they pushed me, but because I was terrified of disappointing them. What if I wasn't worth choosing after all? What if they regretted it? So I became perfect. Straight A's, scholarships, volunteer work, leadership roles. I learned early that excellence kept me safe. Excellence kept me loved, or so I thought. In high school, when I told my mother I wanted to study law, she didn't hug me. She asked, "Is that field lucrative enough?" When I got accepted into a top university on a full scholarship, my father didn't cry with pride. He calculated tuition saved. "Good," he said. "That's less burden on us." Burden? I never asked them for money. I worked part-time. I applied for grants. I built everything carefully, brick by brick. But they always spoke like I owed them something bigger. As if adoption came with a repayment clause. Still, I ignored the signs. I told myself they were just practical, just realistic. Until graduation night. Until the words, investment, and relax now, echoed in front of everyone. That wasn't pride. That was expectation. And suddenly, my childhood memories rearranged themselves into something colder. Maybe I wasn't chosen for love. Maybe I was chosen for potential. And if that was true, then they were about to learn something important. I might be their adopted daughter, but I was never their property. When I took the microphone that night, my hands weren't shaking. My heart was. But my voice, calm. "Thank you," I said softly, looking at the crowd. Yes, I was adopted. And yes, my parents supported me in many ways. My mother smiled, relieved. But I wasn't finished. What they didn't mention, I continued, is that I worked 3 jobs during college. That I covered my own living expenses. That every scholarship I earned was through merit. The air shifted. My father's smile faded slightly. I'm grateful for being adopted, I said carefully. But gratitude doesn't mean ownership. The crowd went quiet. After the guests left, the real confrontation began. My father closed the back gate sharply. What was that performance? He snapped. Performance? I asked calmly. You embarrassed us. You announced me like a stock portfolio. I replied. My mother crossed her arms. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Repay. There it was again. I didn't ask to be an investment, I said quietly. You owe us, my father said bluntly. We raised you. We paid for things. I paid for most of it, I reminded him. That's not the point, he barked. You're entering a high-paying field. It's only fair you contribute back. We sacrificed years. Sacrificed. The word echoed in my chest. Was I a child or a retirement policy? The next morning, my mother slid a printed document across the table. A financial plan. Projected salary estimates. Monthly contribution expectations. My name at the top. I thought we could start with 30%, she said casually. 30%. Of my future. Of my freedom. I stared at the paper. This wasn't love. This was control. And the worst part. They weren't even ashamed. They believed they were entitled. I folded the document slowly. You really think I owe you my life? I asked. My father didn't hesitate. Yes? That was the moment something inside me shifted completely. I had spent my entire childhood trying to prove I was worth keeping. Now I realized I needed to prove I wasn't owned. And they had no idea what I'd already prepared for this exact possibility. I didn't argue that night. I didn't cry either. I simply stood up, took the financial plan with me, and walked into my room. But inside something was breaking, or maybe finally hardening. I sat on my bed staring at the numbers they had typed so neatly under my name. 30% of my salary. Family support. Return on investment. Long-term security. Return on investment. They didn't even try to hide it. The next few days were worse. Subtle pressure. Strategic kindness. My mother brought me tea. You know, we just want what's fair. My father patted my shoulder. You'll still have plenty left. Lawyers make good money. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about ownership. Then came the guilt. What could have adopted someone else? My father said during dinner one night. I froze. But we chose you. The knife slipped from my fingers onto the plate with a sharp metallic sound. Chose me. That word used to feel warm. Now it felt like a contract. I started noticing how often they reminded me of my adoption. Not out of love. Out of leverage. You're lucky we found you. We gave you opportunities. We made you who you are. No. I made me who I am. And then something happened that confirmed everything. I accidentally overheard them on the phone with a relative. Yes, she's entering corporate law, my mother was saying proudly. It will finally pay off. Pay off. I felt like I'd been slapped. That night, I opened my laptop. I logged into the secure folder I had created months ago. Just in case. Copies of my scholarship documents. My independent tax filings. Proof of my personal earnings. Every financial record showing what I had paid myself. Because somewhere deep down, I had always felt this coming. They thought they were planning my future. But I had been planning mine too. And the next conversation we were about to have would not end the way they expected. 2 nights later, I asked them to sit down with me. Same kitchen table. Same chairs. But this time, I wasn't the little girl being chosen. I placed a folder in front of them. What's this? My father asked, already annoyed. My side of the story. They exchanged confused looks. I opened the folder slowly and slid out the first document. These are my university payment records. Every semester, every housing bill, every book. Paid by me. My mother frowned. Me helped. You signed one loan. I paid it off last year. Silence. I placed down the next sheet. These are my tax returns. Notice anything? My father's jaw tightened. I've been financially independent since I was 19. My mother shifted uncomfortably. Why are you showing us this? Because you said I owe you. I leaned back, steady. You didn't adopt a future salary, you adopted a child. My father's voice rose. Don't twist this! We fed you, clothed you. Yes, I nodded. And legally, that was your responsibility when you adopted me. That hit hard. But I wasn't done. There's one more thing. I pulled out the final paper, an official acceptance letter. Not to a law firm, to a different city, different state, different life. I signed with a firm 3 months ago, I said calmly. They offered relocation. I start in 6 weeks. My mother gasped. You're moving? Les? Without discussing it with us? My father demanded. I looked him straight in the eyes. You didn't discuss my salary plan with me. Silence fell like a storm cloud. And before you worry, I added quietly, I've already signed a lease. My bank accounts are separate. My savings are secure. I watched realization slowly dawn on them. They thought they were positioning me for their future. But I had quietly positioned myself for freedom. My mother's voice cracked. So you're just leaving? No, I said gently. I'm growing. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't asking permission. The day I left, they didn't come to the airport. Not because they were busy, because they were angry. My mother barely hugged me goodbye. My father just said, you'll understand one day. But as I sat on that plane, watching the city shrink beneath me, I realized something I already understood. 6 months later, my life looked completely different. New city, new apartment, floor to ceiling windows. My name on a glass office door. Associate attorney. The first time I saw it, I stood there longer than I should have. Not because of the title, but because it was mine. No one's investment, no one's return. Mine. Work was intense. Long hours, high-pressure cases. But every paycheck that hit my account felt like oxygen. Freedom has a sound. It sounds like silence after years of guilt. One evening, my phone rang. Mom, I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Hey, I said calmly. Her voice was softer than I remembered. We heard you got promoted. I did. That's good. There was hesitation. Then my father's voice came faintly in the background. Ask her. My mother cleared her throat. We've had some financial difficulties. Of course. I didn't react. We thought, maybe you could help, just temporarily. The irony almost made me laugh. Temporarily. 30% temporarily. I took a breath. I can help, I said carefully. But not as an obligation. Not as repayment. Silence. I'll contribute something reasonable. Because I choose to. Not because I owe you. The difference was everything. My father finally spoke directly. His tone was different now. Quieter. We didn't mean to make you feel transactional. But they did. And now they understood the cost of that mistake. I love you? I said honestly. But love isn't a business contract. And after we hung up, I stood by my window, looking at the city lights. For the first time, I didn't feel like someone's project. I felt powerful. And peace. Peace feels better than revenge ever could. It's been 2 years now. I visit them sometimes. Not out of obligation. Out of choice. And that difference changed everything. The first time I went back home after moving, the house felt smaller. Quieter. My old room looked like a museum of a girl who tried too hard to be perfect. My mother made tea the way she always used to. My father asked about work, but this time, he listened. There were no spreadsheets on the table. No investment jokes. No reminders that I was adopted. Just space. At one point, my mother looked at me and said softly, "We were afraid." "Of what?" I asked. "That you would leave us behind." I smiled gently. "You almost made that happen." She nodded, eyes glossy. I realized something important that day. They didn't adopt me to use me. But somewhere along the way, fear turned into control. And control turned into entitlement. And entitlement almost cost them their daughter. For years, I believed I had to earn my place in that family. I believed I had to be extraordinary to deserve love. But the truth: love isn't something you repay. It isn't something you calculate. It isn't earned through achievements or salaries. It's given freely. And if it comes with conditions, it's not love. Moving away didn't just give me independence. It gave me clarity. I am not a burden. I am not an investment. I am not a repayment plan. I am a daughter. I am a woman. I am someone who built her life with her own hands. And if there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this: you don't owe anyone your future just because they were part of your past. Gratitude and guilt are not the same thing. And sometimes, the strongest thing a girl can do is choose herself.